Hey there, my mutant-loving, Hulk-smashing marvels! Today we're diving back to a time when shoulder pads were huge and arcade buttons took a beating, the glorious early 90s. We're revisiting an era-defining classic, the X-Men arcade game. But before we get too nostalgic, did you know that this game had some mind-blowing secrets tucked away behind those pixelated punches? Well, stick around as we uncover some astonishing surprises that even Professor X might not have seen coming. But first, let's go back to 1992, when Konami led the arcade game charge. This was a period when arcades were bustling hubs of gaming culture. And what better way to attract the teenage masses than with a game featuring the ever-popular X-Men? Konami, known for their knack for capturing the essence of pulp culture phenomena in their arcade titles, dove deep into the Marvel Universe. The decision to develop an X-Men game was not just a shot in the dark. Marvel's mutant heroes were at the peak of their popularity, thanks to a highly successful comic book line and the animated TV series that had just begun broadcasting. The development team, led by producer Koji Hiroshita, aimed to bring something different to the arcade scene. Hiroshita and his team decided early on to focus on cooperative gameplay experience. Their goal? To emulate the teamwork dynamic of the X-Men themselves, encouraging players to work together, combining their unique mutant abilities to progress through the game. One of the most significant challenges they faced was translating the diverse powers of the X-Men characters into a video game format. Each character needed to feel distinct and true to the comics, which required innovative design and programming. For instance, Wolverine's claws had to not only look lethal, but feel weighty and effective during combat. This focus on authenticity was a driving factor behind the game's development. Additionally, Konami had to navigate the complex licensing issues associated with Marvel's characters. Negotiating the rights to use these characters in a game involved intricate discussions to ensure that every depiction was legally sound and respected to the source material. The game was also a pioneer in using voice samples and digitized graphics to enhance the player's experience. The voices of the X-Men were lifted straight from the animated series, creating a seamless crossover from screen to joystick that thrilled fans. The development wasn't without its controversies, though. There was a balancing act between creating a game that was both faithful to the X-Men lore and accessible to players who might not be as familiar with the comic books. This led to decisions that purists questioned, such as the simplification of some characters' backstories and abilities. But nonetheless, the game features 6 playable characters: Cyclops, Colossus, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, and Dazzler. Each character was chosen not only for their popularity, but also for their unique abilities, which could translate well into the game mechanics. For instance, Cyclops' optic blast provided a long-range attack option, while Colossus' superhuman strength allowed for devastating close combat moves. The storyline of the game is straightforward yet effective, capturing the essence of the X-Men's battle against oppression. The narrative pits the X-Men against their arch-nemesis, Magneto, who has kidnapped Professor X and is threatening the world with his army of Sentinels and supervillains. The plot unfolds across various levels that take players from an island stronghold to the depths of outer space, culminating in a showdown against Magneto himself. This journey isn't just a series of battles, it's a quest for justice, reflecting the larger themes of the X-Men series about diversity, acceptance, and fighting against tyranny. What made the storyline particularly engaging was how it leveraged the arcade format. Unlike reading a comic where you observe heroes in action, here you could control them, directly influencing the narrative's outcome through your gameplay. This interactive dimension added a layer of immersion and responsibility. Your actions could either lead to victory or doom for the X-Men. The developers were meticulous in how they integrated each character's backstory and abilities into the game. They consulted extensively with Marvel to ensure accuracy and respect for the lore, which wasn't just about fan service. It was about preserving the integrity of characters that fans had grown to love. This dedication helped the game resonate deeply with players, whether they were longtime fans of the comics or newcomers introduced through the arcade. The game also featured brief cutscenes and dialogues that added depth to the narrative, a technique not commonly used in arcade games at this time. These snippets of story help to frame each level's context, enhancing the overall storytelling experience and making each victory feel like a significant progression in the hero's quest. This narrative technique bridged the gap between comic book storytelling and video game mechanics, creating a rich, engaging story experience that was both dynamic and faithful to its roots. But now let's dissect the game mechanics, shall we? Just like dissecting a frog in science class, but way cooler because, well, it's X-Men. Firstly, the game was a side-scrolling beat-em-up, a genre widely popular in the early 90s, but given a fresh twist with the addition of multi-mutant powers. Each character had basic attacks and a special mutant power that could be unleashed for massive damage. However, using these powers would cost the player a bit of health, adding a strategic element to the gameplay. Do you blast through with powers and risk your health, or keep it safe and plod through enemy hordes? Decisions. Cooperative gameplay was another key feature. Players could team up with up to 5 friends for 6-player action, a rare treat in those days. This wasn't just about making the game more fun, it mirrored the X-Men's own team dynamics, emphasizing teamwork and collective effort over solo heroics. The layout of the arcade cabinet itself was designed to enhance this aspect, with 2 screens merged to accommodate more players. The game's development were designed to challenge players' mastery of these characters and their cooperation skills. Each level introduced different enemies and obstacles, requiring players to strategize and adapt. The varied environments from snowy landscapes to high-tech bases kept the gameplay visually engaging and dynamic. Now, if you think navigating through those levels sounds as challenging as trying to find the remote when you're already 5 minutes late for your favorite TV show, well, you're right. But hey, that's what made it thrilling. And speaking of thrilling, if you're enjoying this deep dive into arcade nostalgia, why not hit that like and subscribe button? It's easier than beating Magneto on your first quarter and doesn't cost you a dime.
Quit playing around.
And speaking of costs, let's dive into the sales performance of X-Men the arcade game to reveal just how significant this title was back in the 90s arcade scene. The game not only performed well commercially, but also left a lasting imprint on the gaming culture and beyond. Upon its release, the X-Men game quickly became a fixture in arcades across the globe. It was almost impossible to walk into an arcade and not hear the chaotic clatter of buttons being smashed, and see a crowd gathered around the X-Men cabinet. The game was particularly notable for its 6-player gameplay, a feature that was a major draw. This not only boosted playtime, but also increased the game's earnings for arcade owners. It's estimated that thousands of units were sold, and the game consistently ranked high on the arcade earnings chart during its peak. The financial success of the game was impressive, but its cultural impact was even more so. X-Men helped to solidify the concept of team-based play in arcades, encouraging cooperation and camaraderie amongst players. This was a significant departure from the more common competitive multiplayer modes prevalent in other arcade games. Moreover, the game played a crucial role in bringing comic book characters to the forefront of the gaming world, serving as a precursor to countless superhero-based games that would follow. It demonstrated the potential of these characters and interactive media, paving the way for extensive integrations of comic book narratives into video games. Now let's peel back the curtain and uncover some of the most intriguing trivia and Easter eggs hidden within the X-Men arcade game. These tidbits not only add layers of depth to the game, but also serve as a testament to the developers' attention to detail and their dedication to embedding surprises that enhance the gaming experience. First off, one lesser-known aspect of the game is its use of voice lines. As mentioned earlier, these were actually taken from the 1989 Pride of the X-Men pilot episode, which, despite never turning into a full series, left its mark by contributing to the arcade game. This decision was a clever reuse of resources that also provided a sense of continuity with X-Men's appearance in other media. Then there's the character selection screen, which hides a delightful surprise. If players were to input a specific sequence of joystick movements and button presses, a classic Konami cheat code, if you will, they could unlock alternate costume colors. This feature was not documented in the game's manual and became a cherished secret among the gaming community, adding a layer of personalization and replay value. Another intriguing Easter egg involves the game's portrayal of the character Dazzler. While not as well known as her mutant colleagues, Dazzler was given a prominent role in the game. Interestingly, her inclusion and character design were based more on her earlier comic appearances than her then current storylines. This choice was a nod to longtime fans familiar with her disco-era origins, a subtle yet appreciated detail that connected the game to a richer comic history. And just like Wolverine's temper, our deep dive into the pixelated world of the X-Men arcade game ends here. If you enjoyed this roller coaster through mutant history, found the hidden gems, and survived the onslaught of data, thanks for watching. And remember, in the world of X-Men, you never just play a game, you survive it. If you enjoyed breaching the history of X-Men the arcade game, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And as always, thank you for watching.